All right, magic makers, I hope that you are having a great week. And so in today's episode, I wanted to talk about the power of the little things. And I've talked about this for a really I've talked about this for a while, right? I've talked about how so many of us think that change is about doing all the things, right? Having this like 400 to-do list. And if I'm not doing all 400 things, then I am never going to hit my goals. And, you know, that's just not the case, right? Or we think that like I make a decision and then I really have to focus on willpower, discipline, motivation. That's really how I'm going to get my goals. And that, we are so excited, right? When we make that decision, like, oh my God, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Like, oh my God, I'm starting this new program. And you tell yourself that, again, pull it on the willpower, pulling out the willpower battery, knocking on the motivation door and telling yourself, yep, I'm going to be so disciplined starting on Monday. And we keep saying to all of that ourselves that, we got to make these big sweeping changes. We got to create these brand new routines. But how has that worked out for you? Right? How has that worked out for you? Because I'm sorry, ladies, like habits, like lasting habits don't work that way, right? I want you to take a moment and imagine, like, what if your habits had nothing to do with willpower, had nothing to do with discipline, had nothing to do with motivation? And we think that we have to like come up with like in the clutch, like I'm going to use a sports analogy here. So I live here in Boston, and there was a player, his name is David Ortiz. And whenever there were like clutch moments in the game where we needed, to clear the bases to get some runs, we needed, clear bases to get some runs, we needed just a run. He would have a way of just like stepping up to the plate and just crushing it, right? And if you think about baseball, it is like, the way the ball comes across the plate, the way you have to angle your bat to hit the ball, like there are just so many different variables that you're not guaranteed to crush every time you step up to the plate. But somehow David Ortiz was able to do that. And that's how we think we are. We think that in order to get to the goals we want, we got to be big poppy. We got to just step up and crush every single day. And I get that, right? Because it's like you're starting, you're so excited. You see that person that you want to be, and you just can't wait to be that person because you're like, I've wanted to be this person for, I just can't, right? So here is where I want us to take the focus on how much change we're trying to create from step one, right? Instead of looking at like, the entire rainbow, if you will, the entire, forest of change, what if we just scaled it back and said, what are we trying to create in the first place? And, I did a call a couple of weeks ago about the stress-free summer. And I asked people, what's your vision for summer, right? Like, let's just break it down. Like for 90 days, like saying June, July, and August, what do you foresee for yourself? And, some people are like, all right, where other people are like, well, they wanted more parameters, right? They wanted like you to put the guidepost on them versus like stepping up and seeing what their vision was. So when we think about change, I want you to think about that it's way easier to change the tiny than to change the huge, right? So if I say I want to lose 20 pounds, it's way easier for me to say, how do I lose 1 pound versus how do I lose 20? Because the steps to lose 1 pound, if I do it right, if I keep repeating it 19 more times, what do you think is going to happen? What? Yeah, I just said that out loud, right? And those tweaks in my life are relatively painless versus when I try to sprint to the finish line, try to hit that big poppy style home run, then I feel sometimes tired and I just want to sit down and rest, right? So when you're consistent with the small changes, they quickly add up and they add towards your bigger habit, losing the 20 pounds, eating 400 grams of vegetables, having 30 grams of protein with my dinner, being regularly going to the gym. It is the little things that add to the bigger things. There's a guy, Darren Hardy. Yes, Darren Hardy. He calls it the compound effect, right? He says if we do these small actions for 27 months, now he's talking about building a business, but if you think about it, Many of, if I told you, okay, give me 27 months and we're going to lose the weight, you would be like, girl, I want to lose that in 27 days or 27 minutes or 27 seconds. Like, you don't know. Where I do know that if I slow it down, I slow my roll, I'm more likely to stick with my habits, right? And I've shared this with you multiple times, and I keep sharing it with you because I want to finally because I can't take all of you and shake you by the shoulders as much as I want to, I can't. But I wanted to start sharing with you that for many of us, it's the pace that we choose that's going to really ultimately help us get our goal. And the old way of making our old way of making changes, we thought we had to struggle, we had to suffer. If it wasn't extreme enough, then girl, get out of my face. I know I was that person. Like if I wasn't crawling through glass and bleeding from the eyeballs, it wasn't extreme enough. If I didn't have to white knuckle my way through the day, why even try? Why should it be easy? And as you get older, you get a little wisdom in your head. And I'm wiser now. And my wisdom is you know what? I'm done. Uncle, I'm done stressing. I'm done with the marathon sessions at the gym. I want my life to be more about revolving around my exercise, my food, right? I want to find a way that, my diet and my exercise and my life aren't in constant battle with each other, that there is, I'm going to use the word, there is balance, right? That it's not the first thought in my head of what am I going to eat today and how am I not going to blow it? And when is my workout going to happen? Or if I didn't work out, I'm not oh crap, I didn't work out. And I have this whole Mike Tyson type fight in my head about why I suck, right? So here's where I want us to start to think about. Willpower is a battery. Think about your phone. If I didn't plug in my phone every night, at some point during the day, my phone would give out. That is willpower. And if I'm always white knuckling it, I'm always telling myself, I can't have this and I must do that. And I can't do, it's this, the battle of good and evil, if you will, then I'm always going to struggle and I'm always going to lose. And if you're tired of losing, keep listening, because I'm dropping some nuggets today and we're not even 10 minutes into this freaking episode. All right. So when I scale back, and I see the smaller changes, I can see the steps. I can see success, right? And every day I want you, every day, at least every week, I want you to win. I want you to be able to look back at your week and be like, oh, I told myself I was going to go to the gym 3 days a week and I did it. Wow, look at me, right? Versus I told myself I was going to lose 20 pounds this week and dang, I didn't lose the 20 pounds this week, right? I want you to think about that, right? So instead of folks setting this big giant overarching goal, have this vision, but from your vision, your daily actions must contribute to that vision. If my daily actions are not contributing to that vision, what do you think is going to happen? I ain't gonna get it, right? So let's start to focus in on have that vision, have the 20 pounds, have the eat more vegetables, have all of that, and then say, how do I contribute to this on a daily basis? Right? I think about back in the day, I still do actually. So to save for my travel, every week I save $60, and I put aside $60, and it just automatically goes into my savings account. So when I do travel, I have the money to go. And so I want you to think about that's what I'm doing. It's just this little weekly thing that is slowly dripping, so that eventually, when I do decide to go on a trip, I'm like, hey, I'm rolling in it. Well, $60 is $60, but I feel I have the money and I'm not running around trying to scrape it together. So here's what I'm talking about, right? So if you were trying to say lose the 20 pounds, because everyone has at some point said I wanted to lose 20 pounds. All right, I'm going to give you two scenarios, and you're going to say to yourself, what scenario would you find yourself sticking with for at least 30 days? All right. You're going to tell yourself that every single night for dinner, you're going to have a salad. Every single night. Doesn't matter. Sunday through Saturday, I'm going to have a salad every single night. Okay. That's scenario one. Scenario two is, you know what? Every dinner, I'm going to add a vegetable. Make sure that I have a vegetable with my dinner. Of those two scenarios, Which one do you think you're more likely to stick with? Yes, because you're more likely to stick with having a vegetable. Because if you think about it, right? I love a salad. I have one every single day for lunch, right? It's just something I've decided to do. But there are times that if I feel like if I'm out and there's something like even more delicious on the menu, I'll have it, but then I'll make sure I have a vegetable, right? Because the reason why I started having salad is just to make sure I have vegetable, make sure I get my fiber in. But it's like I give myself the flexibility. But for a lot of my clients, they're like, oh, I don't really like salad that much. I only like salad when I go out. And how many of us like someone else makes a better sandwich? Gosh darn it, they make a better sandwich, or someone else makes a better salad than what I can make at home. So I want you to think about, right? It's about going for the incremental change versus the sweeping change, right? Because then they become routines more quickly. And the more things become routine, the more I get to that consistency, right? That missing piece that so many of us are like, I want to be consistent, but we're just like, I don't even know what that looks like or how to do it. And then we ultimately get the results, right? So how do we, start to do these things? The first step, accept where you are, right? My favorite poem by Arthur, I don't know, and it's not a poem. I don't, it's a poem or quote. Either way, it's by Arthur Ashe. And it's 3 lines. And he's like, start where you are. Do what you can with what you got, right? It is like it is my mantra. And I say it over and over and over again because so many times we we get all caught up in the vision. Great, I want you to have that vision, but I also want you to step back and say, what can I do to get there? Right. So it's like, I'm in Boston. How do I get to California? Am I going to walk? Am I going to Uber? Am I going to drive? Am I going to take fly? Right. It's like, I need to think about, okay, this is where I want to go, but where am I right now? And be honest, like we can't all be masters. When we're in school and I show up at kindergarten, do I be like, those guys up there, they're coloring. Yeah, I need to be in advanced coloring. So who do I talk to? I'm laughing because couldn't you imagine a 5-year-old being like, and so who do I talk to? Right? You don't show up, you're like, oh, everyone's coloring, grab me a crayon. Blue is my favorite. And you like start going to town, coloring whatever the hell you're coloring. Right. So we have to just figure out where are we and be okay with that. Right. One of my mentors says, every master was once a disaster. Be a disaster. Because that's how I learn. That's how I get awkward as F. And I learn. I learn what's going to work for me. I learn my pace, right? Do what I can. It comes into pace. So many people want to sprint to the finish line, but I have to look around at my life. Is this a time that I can sprint? Is this a time that I got to go slow? Is this a time for me? I got to learn some serious lessons. Is it a time for me to be laying the foundation, right? Where am I? And with what I got, I had a client and she's like, oh, I don't do the workouts. And I was like, oh, why don't you do the workouts? And she's like, I don't belong to a gym. So, okay, so if you don't belong to a gym, you haven't raised your hand and say you don't belong to a gym. How can you expect to get help? Right? So many people are sitting around waiting for people to save you. No one's going to save you, right? There's a book by Barbara Stanny. Yeah, Barbara Stanny. And it's called Prince Charming's Not Coming, right? And it's, talks about how, she lost all her money with her husband. Well, no one's coming to save you or anoint you for fitness, right? You have to raise your hand. And so when you hire a coach, I know personally, I ask a lot of questions. So many questions that my people like, for the love of God, I can't answer any more questions. But I was trained the client has the answer. So when you tell me, the assumption is when you sign up for one of my programs, my assumption is if you don't have something or you need something, you're going to raise your hand, right? Because I always say, if you need anything, please let me know. So when you sign up for a workout program, I assume that you have access to a gym. And if you don't have access to a gym, you say, okay, I don't have access to a gym. This is what I have. And then we can start to like create things for you. But silence is consensus. That is my number one thing. I always say silence is consensus. So as we're starting to do this, I need to lean into my fear. I need to lean into my fear that I'm not going to be perfect. Lean into my fear that I'm not going to get it right. Lean into my fear that you know what? It might take me longer than I wanted to, right? We want it to be Amazon Prime. I think about it on a Monday, by Friday, Amazon's ringing my doorbell being like, here's your goal, sister. That doesn't work. That's not how it happens, right? It's not how it happens. So drop the way you think it has to be, right? So many of us get caught up in our rigid mindsets of like, in order for me to hit my goals, I need to be at the gym for a certain amount of time. I need to eat a certain number of meals. I need to do, no rest, no recovery. And I want to ask, how is that working out for you? Right? How are you measuring your goal? I had a client who she first came to me and she was just like crushing it at the gym. And I'm like, awesome. I'm like, what's your sleep look like? Crickets, right? Her nervous system was so overstimulated from running from work to running to deal with her kids, from running to the gym, running. She never gave herself a rest day, never let herself just right. And when I asked her, I was like, when do you ever take like 5 minutes for you? Crickets, right? So we need to start to stop just doing and sit down for a hot second and say, what the hell do I want? So then we can start to see the trees for the forest, right? If I want to be fit, great, but are my daily actions contributing to that? And I'm always going to say that because it's the little things that add up over and over and over again, right? And as I make my decisions, it's okay if it's small. It's okay, right? Who's out there judging? Point this person out who will tell me, if you say, you know what, all I got in me is 2 times a week. Great. Awesome. Let's do it. Who am I to judge? Because I don't know what your season is, right? I don't know. Are you taking care of aging parents? Are you taking care of a kid with a disability? Do you have a more than full-time job? Is right now work just crazy town, right? I don't know that. So I'm going to meet you where you are. And if a coach can't meet you where you are, then you need to get yourself another coach, right? Because it's okay to take the slow route, right? We don't always have to be, driving down the highway 80 miles an hour, singing to the radio. It's okay if we say to ourselves, you know what, I want to take my time. I liken it to like a road trip across the country. There's some people who are like, I got to be there, and they're just going to stop to pee and get gas. Other people are like, I'm going to stop at every tourist trap between here and where I want to go, right? So it's okay. And give yourself the grace, right? Because eventually you're going to get there. And you know what? Fast isn't always the best way. Sorry, not sorry, right? So as I've pretty much put you in a headlock with this concept. So I really want you to start thinking about, what are some of the small changes that I can start to make? So if you're someone who struggles with consistent workouts, right? Put in your calendar. Every Sunday I sit down and I'm like, when am I going to work out? And it's in my calendar, and I treat it like an appointment that I can't break. But I also give myself flexibility. So if I am traveling and I say, okay, I'm leaving on Thursday for this, that means Sundays, and if I am like, can I work out? I used to be like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to Google and find some place that I can work out. But I'm like, can I work out? I ask the question, can I work out without a lot of gymnastics, right? They're like, oh, if I take a cab, if I walk 40 minutes, right? I'm not even gonna open the door to my crazy for you on this one. So make an appointment in my calendar, but have the flexibility so that it's like, oh, on Tuesday I have a dentist appointment. So instead of going to the dentist, so on Tuesday, I'm not going to go to the gym, but usually Wednesday is my rest day. So I will go to the gym on Wednesday, right? So have that fluidity in your schedule. I lay out my clothes, right? So I work out in the morning. So I want to wake up, when I get up at 5 a.m., do you think the thing I want to do is pick up my clothes? The night before, I lay out my clothes, right? I lay them out, underwear included, socks, like all I have to do is put my clothes on. Everything's sitting out ready for me to put on. If I were to say, go to the gym at night, I would do the same thing. So if I would put it in the bag, and I would put that bag right by the door so that I had to trip over the bag to get out of my house, right? Lower my expectations. I had a client who, she worked out Monday through Friday, and then she had a kid. And, kids are kids. And, some nights they sleep like a log. Other nights they're up all night. And she was just like so frustrated that her schedule was disrupted. And I was like, here's the thing. We got to lower our expectations. So instead of it being 5 days a week, what is a bare minimum for you, right? I've said this before and I will say it forever. Good, better, best. What's a good week? What's a better week? What's your best week? And live with that. And then lower your expectations as to what makes a great workout, right? I'm always going to challenge you to strength train. I have some people like, well, I walk. Don't get me wrong. I love a walk, but if you're a woman over 40, you have to minimally strength train at least 2 days a week, minimally. And I'm challenging you to find heavy weights, right? So that you can do anywhere from a 15 to a 30-minute workout with heavy weights so that your muscles are burning, and you are lifting heavy weights. All right. So that's that, so those are like simple things that I can say, okay, this is, and you don't have to do them all. Like decide what feels challenging but doable for you if that your goal is to ultimately start working out on a more consistent basis. Eating healthy. Instead of always like coming up with like, this is my list, I can't have anything on this list. I want you to think about what can I add, right? Track your food for 3 days. What are you currently eating? I guarantee many of you aren't eating enough protein. I guarantee you're not eating enough vegetables or fruits. And guarantee you're not drinking a lot of water. So what can we add? Before I even think about like removing stuff, what can I add? Can I add in more fruits and vegetables? Can I add in more water? Can I add in more protein? And just as the example I gave earlier in the episode, make it one meal. Can I add the vegetable or fruit for breakfast? Can I add, water somewhere in a cup of water somewhere in my day? Can I add protein somewhere in my day? And like get good at one or two of those things before we add on, right? Get good, right? Get it so that it's just like, oh yeah, I'm every night I have my vegetable. Every night I have my vegetable, right? Do that. The other big thing that I see people, they always want to step on that darn scale, right? I want to step on the scale. I must step on the scale. So how do we break that up? Well, maybe we say you hide the scale, right? I used to keep my scale underneath my guest bedroom. What if you tell yourself that you can only weigh yourself on 1 day a week, right? So, I start to make things a little bit more challenging so that maybe I start to pay attention more to, instead of the scale, I pay attention so that maybe if you really can't go cold turkey on the scale, maybe it starts with something as simple as like every Tuesday, I'm going to try on these pair of jeans, right? And just see how they're going and go more in that direction so that we're not constantly beating ourselves up over every ounce that we gain. Because the scale doesn't give you that peace of mind, right? If anything, the scale like starts down like judgment, has you going down judgmentality. Maybe you want to start like reading more. So it's like, maybe it's like starting to figure out, how do I start to put this into my day? Maybe it's, I'm going to read 5 pages a day, right? And it's just really, really simple. The last thing I want to talk about is like, how do I, maybe it's like I want to drink more water, right? Because most people, 75% of Americans are dehydrated. And so go drink some more water right after you finish listening to this. But how do I start to cue in the water? So one of the big things I always tell people is that how I started to drink more water is I kicked off my day drinking water. So before, so I'll have a cup of coffee and then I'll have some water. And having that glass of water is like, then I can have my second cup of coffee. And so I want you to start thinking about, how do I start to like, habits need cues. So how do I like create these cues throughout my day so that I can have better habits? The last one I want to leave you with is a bedtime. So many, women will tell me, oh, I just want to get more sleep. Oh, I just want to get more sleep. But I'm like, do you have a bedtime? And they look at me and I was like, yeah, you need to have a bedtime like you were like 9 years old, right? You need to have that bedtime because it is that bedtime that starts to signal our body to slow down, to calm down, to chill out. And good sleep is critical for mental and physical health. So we need at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night so that we aren't feeling sleep deprived. So I really want you to start thinking about, how do I kind of create this bedtime so that we're going to bed within roughly the same time, like 7 days a week, just so that if we are someone who has chronic sleep issues, we are able to start to have these regular habits that we are seeing. We're not becoming like prisoners of war of our own creation. So, what I want to leave you with this is that if we want to change our lives, we don't have to make these big sweeping changes. Because the problem is that it requires so much energy to do these sweeping changes. And if we just start keeping our eye on the small things that we can do, right? I've given you like several tips that you can do to create that change, because like I said, how many times did we start and write this laundry list? This is what I need to do, this is what I'm going to do in order to crush it. And then maybe by Wednesday, maybe by Friday, we are just like pooped and we just can't do it all. So let me ask you, right? Do you want to continue swinging for the fences and always feeling like you can't, always feeling like, what, I've done my best, but it's just not lasting long? Or do you want to try something different, right? Do I want to break up with the rigidity of this is how it has to look and how it has to be, versus exploring other possibilities, exploring that what if I were to slow my booty down and start to see the trees for the forest when it comes to health and fitness, and really start to embrace what it is like to have, I'm going to say balance, that my whole world isn't wrapped around my diet and my nutrition. And I finally am getting myself a chance to freaking live. All right. So let me know how this is landing with you. And if there's someone out there that needs to hear this podcast, absolutely make sure that you share this with them. And I'm going to ask one final ask. If you are loving what you are hearing, do me a favor and leave me a review on iTunes. That goes a long way with me. I will read it on air. It just fills my cup just to know that I am sharing information that you find helpful and valuable. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I will talk to you next week.